I wasn't supposed to be there that night. My shift ended at 6. I had already taken the elevator down, already waved at Mr. Bake, the security guy, already stepped out into the cold Seoul air with my bag on my shoulder, thinking about jollof rice and sleep. But then I reached into my pocket and nothing. My phone wasn't there. I stood outside that building for a full minute just patting myself down like a crazy person. Jacket pocket, bag, side pocket, nothing. So yeah, I had to go back up. Simple, quick, get the phone, leave, go home. That was the plan. I signed back in at the desk. Mr. Bake gave me a weird look but didn't say anything, and I took the private elevator straight up to the 42nd floor, the Penthouse. I had a key, obviously. 3 years of working there, of course I had a key. I let myself in quietly because, honestly, I just wanted to grab my phone off the kitchen counter and disappear. But the moment that door swung open, I stopped. The living room, my living room, the one I mopped every single morning, the one I arranged the throw pillows on perfectly every single day, was full of men. 4 of them, big, quiet, dressed in all black like they came from some kind of event, except their faces didn't look like they'd been anywhere fun. And then there was him, Kang Jiwoo, my employer, the man who paid my salary every month without fail, who left his dry cleaning on the chair every Tuesday, who drank exactly 2 cups of black coffee before 8 a.m. and never once said good morning to me in 3 years. He was standing at the far end of the room near the floor-to-ceiling windows. Seoul was glittering behind him like a painting. He looked different. Not the quiet, stiff businessman I was used to seeing in expensive suits heading out to meetings. No, right now he had his jacket off, his sleeves rolled up, and the look on his face, I can't explain it. It was like looking at a completely different person. One of the men in black spotted me first. He moved, fast. But Jiwoo raised one hand, just one hand, barely a gesture, and the man froze. The whole room went still. Jiwoo turned his head and looked at me, slow, dead calm. "Close the door, Adaeze." My name in his mouth sounded like a warning. I couldn't move. I genuinely could not make my legs do anything. My hand was still on the door handle, my bag halfway off my shoulder, my brain just buffering. One of the men shifted his weight, and I caught something at his waist, something hard and dark tucked under his jacket. Oh no. Adaeze. Jiwoo said my name again, quieter this time. That was somehow worse. I stepped inside. I closed the door behind me, and that was the exact moment I realized I had spent 3 years cleaning this man's home, and I had absolutely no idea who he was. Okay, so let me back up, because you need to understand something. I am not a dramatic person, like, at all. I came to Seoul from Lagos at 22 with a cleaning company placement, a 1-year contract, and exactly 400,000 naira saved up for emergencies. I was practical, focused. I sent money home every month, I took Korean language classes on Saturday mornings, and I minded my business so hard it was basically a professional skill. When the cleaning company assigned me to the Jiwoo Tower penthouse permanently, I thought I hit the jackpot. Private residence, single occupant, no kids, no pets, no parties. The man was clean, like weirdly, obsessively clean. Half my job was just maintaining perfection that already existed. He left at exactly 7:15 a.m. every weekday. He came back between 9 and 11 p.m. He never brought anyone home. He ate the meals his personal chef prepared and left in the fridge. He had maybe 3 conversations with me in 3 years. The first one was when I accidentally moved a small wooden box on his office shelf. I just dusted under it and put it back in a slightly different position. He noticed. "Don't touch that shelf." That was it. Full sentence, 3 years of employment. The second time was when I broke a glass in the kitchen. Not even his glass, it was mine, a water glass from the staff cabinet. I apologized, and he just looked at me for a second and said, "Buy a replacement." Then he left the room. The third time was the night I'm telling you about. So yeah, not exactly a warm working relationship. But here's the thing. When you spend that much time in a person's space, you start to notice things whether you want to or not. I noticed that he had no family photos, anywhere, not one. I noticed that there were always 2 or 3 men I didn't recognize sitting in the lobby on certain days, always dressed the same way, always watching the elevator. I noticed that his phone never stopped, like ever. At 3 a.m. sometimes, I'd arrive early for a morning shift and hear it buzzing through the bedroom door. I noticed that once, just once, I found a torn piece of paper near the waste bin in his study. I picked it up to throw it away properly and caught half a sentence before I crumpled it. It said, "Confirmed. The eastern route is..." I threw it away and never thought about it again. See, I minded my business. But standing in that living room that night with 4 men staring at me and Jiwoo's eyes pinned on my face like he was calculating something, every single little thing I'd ever noticed and ignored came rushing back to me at once. The wooden box I was never allowed to touch, the men in the lobby, the phone calls at 3 a.m., the way Jiwoo himself moved, always precise, always aware, always with his back to the wall when he sat down. I stood there in my cleaning uniform with my bag strap in my fist, and I thought, how did I not see this? How did I spend 3 years in this man's home and not see a single thing? One of the men said something in Korean to Jiwoo, low and fast. I caught maybe 2 words. My language classes were coming in handy right now in the most terrifying way possible. He said, "She knows." Jiwoo didn't reply. He just kept looking at me. "Sit down." He said it like it wasn't even a request. I sat down. Look, I know how that sounds, but you try standing in a room with those men and tell me what you would do. I sat on the edge of the white sofa, the one I fluffed the cushions on every single morning, and I put my bag on my lap, and I waited. Jiwoo said something to the 4 men. They left. Just like that. One by one, quiet as shadows, they filed out through a side door I had literally never noticed before in 3 years of working in this apartment. Where did that door even go? Then it was just us. Jiwoo walked to the kitchen, my kitchen, the one I organized perfectly, and he poured 2 glasses of water. He put one in front of me on the coffee table and took the other one to the armchair across from me and sat down. He loosened his collar. He looked tired. That was the first human thing I had ever seen on his face. "How much did you hear?" he asked. His English was perfect. It always was. Clean, flat, no accent, like he had been trained to speak it, not taught. "Nothing," I said. "I just came back from my phone." He looked at me. "Adaeze, I didn't hear anything. I saw 4 men and I sat down when you told me to sit down. That's all." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You're not afraid." And honestly, he sounded almost curious about that. "I'm terrified," I told him. "I'm just not stupid." Something moved across his face then. Not quite a smile, more like recognition, like I had said something he didn't expect. He picked up his water glass, looked at it, put it back down. "You've worked here for 3 years," he said. "Yes. You've never taken anything, never asked questions, never looked where you shouldn't look." I didn't answer that one. "The shelf in my study," he said. My stomach dropped. "You moved the box once by accident. You put it back." He paused. You found the note in the bin about 8 months ago. I stopped breathing. I watched you read half of it, he said, totally calm. And then you threw it away and acted like nothing happened. He had cameras. Of course he had cameras. I knew he had cameras. There were visible ones at the front door and the hallway, but in the study, I never. He had you checked out, he said, when you first started. Standard procedure. Checked out how? Thoroughly. I gripped my bag strap tighter. So what happens now? I asked. He looked at me for a long time. Outside, Seoul glittered and hummed 42 floors below us, like it had no idea what was happening up here. That depends, he said. On what? On whether you can keep doing what you've been doing for 3 years. Cleaning your penthouse? Minding your business. I stared at him. He stared back. And listen, I want you to understand something about Kang Jiwoo in that moment. He wasn't threatening me, not exactly, but he wasn't reassuring me either. He was just watching, waiting to see what I was made of. Like whatever I said next was going to matter more than anything I had ever said in my life. I thought about Lagos, about my mother's rent, about my little brother's school fees that I sent every term without fail, about the life I had built here from scratch, 400,000 naira and a cleaning placement, and sheer stubbornness. I've been minding my business for 3 years, I said. I don't plan on stopping. He nodded once, slow, deliberate. Good, he said. Your phone is on the kitchen counter. I stood up, picked up my phone, walked to the door, and then I stopped. I don't know why I stopped. I should have just left. I should have walked out, gone home, eaten my jollof rice, slept and come back the next morning and mopped the floor like nothing happened. But I turned around. Those men, I said, the ones who just left? Jiwoo looked up at me. They work for you? He didn't answer. And they're coming back? Not tonight, he said. And tomorrow, when I come in for my shift? He considered that. Tomorrow will be normal, he said. I nodded. I left. I rode the elevator down alone, and the whole way down I stood there with my phone in my hand and my heart doing things that had no business happening in an elevator. Mr. Beck gave me another look when I passed the desk. I smiled at him. I walked out into the cold Seoul night and I stood on the pavement and I thought, what in the world have I been cleaning for 3 years? I came back the next morning at 7 a.m. Like always. I let myself in like always. The penthouse was quiet, still, perfect, the way it always was. I put my bag in the staff room, changed into my uniform, and I started with the kitchen. Normal, routine, fine. Except, when I got to the living room, the side door was there. It had always been there, obviously, because doors don't appear overnight, but now I could see it clearly. It was built to blend into the wall panel. Same color, same finish, almost invisible unless you knew what you were looking for. 3 years. I had cleaned that wall panel 3 years and never once seen it as a door. I stood there with my mop and I just stared at it. It leads to a private stairwell. I spun around. Jiwoo was standing in the kitchen doorway, still in the same clothes from last night. He hadn't slept. I wasn't going to open it, I said. I know. He walked past me to the window and looked out at the city. Morning Seoul, gray and pink and waking up slowly. Sit down, Adaeze. I have work. Sit down. I sat. He stayed at the window for a moment. Then he said, my name is not Kang Jiwoo. I didn't say anything. It's the name I use here for this life, the business you see on paper. He turned from the window. My real name doesn't matter right now. What matters is that the men you saw last night, they are not the problem. The problem is the people looking for me. My mouth went dry. Looking for you, I repeated. There are people in this city who want to find me very badly, he said. And for 3 years, this penthouse has been safe because nobody connected to that world knew I lived here. He looked at me directly then. You are the only civilian who has seen those men in this apartment. Civilian. That one word told me so much. I'm not going to tell anyone, I said. I know. Then why are you telling me all this? He walked to the armchair and sat down, leaned forward with his elbows on his knees. For the first time in 3 years, Kang Jiwoo, or whoever he really was, looked like something other than a cold, unreachable statue. He looked like a man carrying something very heavy. Because last night changed things, he said. You're not just staff anymore. You're a variable, and I don't like variables I can't account for. So what does that mean for me? It means I need to know you're safe. I blinked. Safe from what? He didn't answer immediately. Outside, a taxi horn blared. Someone laughed on the street 42 floors below. Seoul just kept going, like the world wasn't shifting sideways up here. The men who are looking for me, Jiwoo said quietly. They watch, they notice patterns, and you have been walking in and out of this building for 3 years. Oh no. They might already know who you are, he said. I don't know yet. I'm finding out. I sat very still. So basically, I said slowly, you're telling me that I might be in danger because of a job I've been doing normally without knowing anything for 3 years. Yes. I laughed. I know that sounds crazy, but I laughed. This short, disbelieving sound, because what else do you do? Jiwoo watched me laugh with that same unreadable expression. What's funny? He asked. Nothing, I said. Everything. I don't know. I rubbed my face. I came back for my phone, Jiwoo. I came back for my phone. Something shifted in his face when I used his name like that. Like no one ever just said it, plainly, without a title or fear attached to it. He looked at me for a long moment. I will handle this, he said. Nothing will happen to you. Can you promise that? I don't make promises, he said. I make arrangements. And somehow, God help me, that was more reassuring than any promise. I looked at this man, this stranger I had spent 3 years thinking I knew. His cold apartment, his 2 cups of black coffee, his untouchable shelf. The wooden box I was never allowed to touch. What's in the box? I asked. He went very still. The one on your study shelf, I said. The one I'm not allowed to touch. What's in it? He looked at me for a long time. Then he stood up, walked to the study, and came back. He put the box on the coffee table between us. Small, dark wood, no lock. Open it, he said. I looked at him. Go ahead, he said. I reached out, and my fingers touched the lid. Inside was a photograph. Old. The edges were soft like it had been handled 1,000 times. The colors were slightly faded the way photos go when they've been sitting somewhere for years. It was a picture of a woman, Nigerian, beautiful, maybe late 30s. She was standing outside somewhere that looked like it could be Lagos. The light, the colors, something about the background felt familiar to me in a deep, bone-level way. She was laughing at something off camera, and she was holding a small boy's hand. The boy was maybe 5 or 6 years old, mixed, Korean and black, you could see it clearly. Big dark eyes, round cheeks, looking up at the woman like she was the entire world. I looked up at Jiwoo. He was watching me with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Not cold, not calculating. Something much quieter than that. Something that looked almost like grief. "Who is she?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. He sat back down in the armchair for a moment, like he was deciding something. "Her name was Ngozi," he said. "Was." That single word landed heavy. She was... He stopped, started again. She was the only person who ever knew my real name and trusted me anyway. I looked back at the photograph, the laughing woman, the little boy. "Is that you?" I asked. "The boy?" "No." He took the photograph back gently, looked at it for just a second, and closed the box. "That is why the shelf is untouchable," he said. Flat. Final. I didn't push. We sat quiet for a moment. Morning light stretched across the floor, hitting the furniture I polished every week. "She's connected to the people looking for you?" I said. It wasn't a question. Jiwoo glanced at me. "You're quick," he said. 3 years of noticing things in this apartment," I said. "I just never understood what I was noticing." He almost smiled at that. Not quite, but close. "Yes," he said. "She's connected. What happened to her is the reason I'm here. The reason for all of this." He gestured vaguely at the apartment, at the hidden door, at whatever life was happening behind the surface of things. "I've been in Seoul for 6 years, building something, waiting." "Waiting for what?" He looked at me. "To finish it," he said simply. I didn't ask what it was. Some part of me knew I wasn't ready for that answer yet. I stood up, straightened my uniform, picked up my mop. "I'm going to clean your apartment now," I said. He blinked, like that was the last thing he expected. "Adaeze, you said tomorrow would be normal," I said. "It's tomorrow. Let me do my job." He nodded. I went back to the kitchen and started my routine. Counters, stovetop, floor. Normal. Steady. Except nothing was normal anymore, and we both knew it. Around 7:45 a.m., Jiwoo went to his bedroom to finally sleep. I heard the door close softly. I worked through the apartment quietly. When I got to the study, I dusted every surface carefully, the way I always did. I left the shelf exactly as it was. I didn't touch the box. But when I got to the wall panel with the hidden door, I stopped for a second. I put my hand flat on the smooth surface. Behind it was a stairwell. Behind that was whatever life Kang Jiwoo was really living, and somewhere in that life was a woman named Ngozi, and a little boy in a photograph, and a reason big enough to make a man disappear into a fake name in a city that wasn't his. I took my hand off the wall. I picked up my cleaning cloth, and I finished my shift. I signed out at 2 p.m. I nodded at Mr. Baek. I walked out into the Seoul afternoon and I pulled my jacket tight against the wind. My phone buzzed, a message from my mother asking if I had eaten. I typed back, "Yes, Mama, I'm fine," and kept walking. But halfway down the block, I stopped because a man was standing on the other side of the street, black jacket, still, watching the building. He wasn't Mr. Baek. He wasn't any of the regular security guys I recognized. He was just watching. And when I paused, he looked at me, direct, steady, like he already knew my name. I turned around and kept walking, fast, heart hammering, eyes forward. Jiwoo had said he was finding out if they already knew who I was. Looked like he had his answer.